Donald Trump built a public image around one idea, that he was not merely successful, but intellectually unmatched. For decades, he repeated the same credential whenever his judgment was questioned. He pointed to Wharton, to the University of Pennsylvania, to business school. The message was simple: trust the mind, trust the genius, trust the man who claimed he understood things others could not. But the story behind that image is far more complicated. Long before Trump became president, there were already questions about the academic mythology he placed around himself. He spent time at Fordham before transferring to the University of Pennsylvania. Later, he spoke about Wharton, as if it were proof of rare brilliance, a place so difficult to enter that attendance alone became a personal crown. Yet reported accounts from people familiar with that period painted a different picture. One admissions figure from the time said the school was not nearly as impossible to enter as Trump later suggested, especially for transfer students. That detail weakens the legend. And then came the records. Trump publicly questioned Barack Obama's intelligence and called for Obama to release academic information. But when attention turned toward Trump's own school records, the story changed. Testimony later described letters sent to schools, and the College Board warning them not to release Trump's grades or SAT scores. That contrast became impossible to ignore. On one side, Trump demanded transparency from someone else. On the other, his own history appeared guarded behind pressure. For viewers watching closely, the question was no longer whether Trump attended elite schools. The question was why the man who bragged so loudly about academic greatness seemed determined to keep the paperwork hidden. Stay with me, because this is where the story turns sharper. Trump repeatedly suggested he had been a top student at Wharton. He described himself as highly educated and often tied his intelligence to that degree. But published academic indicators did not support the grand version of the claim. His name reportedly did not appear on the dean's list for 1968. His name also did not appear among students receiving graduation honors such as laude, magna cum laude, or summa cum laude. Those are institutional records, they list names. And Trump's name was not there. That alone would be damaging to the myth. But the most explosive piece came from William T. Kelley, a longtime Wharton marketing professor who taught from the early 1950s into the 1980s. Kelley saw thousands of students pass through his classroom. He had decades of experience judging effort, comprehension, discipline, and the ability to apply business concepts. According to Frank DiPrima, a friend of Kelley's, Kelley repeatedly described Trump as the worst kind of student he had encountered. The account was not presented as a one-time insult shouted in anger. It was described as something Kelley said for years, long before Trump became a political figure. That timing is crucial, because a professor's memory from the classroom is different from a reaction to a campaign. And here is what makes the account even more revealing. The issue was not simply whether Trump could memorize enough to get through a course. The criticism was about attitude. The reported description suggested a student who entered the room acting as if he already knew the answers, a student resistant to correction, a student more comfortable with bluster than learning. In business school, that matters deeply. The point is not just to repeat terms or pass a test. The point is to absorb frameworks, analyze unfamiliar problems, accept feedback, and improve judgment. A student who believes he is above the material before understanding it is blocking the education from working. And that is where the Wharton myth begins to collapse. Trump's public brand depended on confidence. Confidence can sell buildings, dominate interviews, excite crowds, and turn a credential into a weapon. But confidence is not the same as proof. Saying top of the class does not place a name on the dean's list. Saying genius does not create honors at graduation. Saying hardest school to enter does not erase the admissions context. And repeating a claim for decades does not turn it into a record. The deeper irony is that Trump used academic suspicion as a political tool against Obama. He questioned Obama's student history, intelligence, and legitimacy. But when scrutiny reached Trump's own background, the evidence produced uncomfortable gaps. The man demanding records from others had his own records kept out of view. The man speaking like a first-place scholar did not appear in the top academic listings. The man leaning on Wharton as proof of intellectual dominance faced a professor's reported judgment that told a different story. This is not just about grades, it is about the difference between image and evidence. Many people attend good schools without being exceptional students. Many successful people were not top of their class. That alone is not a scandal. The problem begins when a person builds a public identity on claims that records do not appear to support. It grows larger when that same person attacks other people's intelligence while shielding his own academic details from scrutiny. In the end, the Wharton story does not destroy the fact that Trump attended the school. It destroys the inflated version built around it. Attendance is real. The legend is disputed. The degree exists. The academic crown does not appear in documented places. And that is why this story keeps returning. It is not because one professor disliked one student. It is because the pattern is familiar. A sweeping claim, a missing record, a louder boast, and then a documented detail that refuses to move. Trump can still call himself a genius. He can still repeat the name Wharton. He can still turn confidence into theater. But the records, the reported professor account, and the absence of academic honors all point in the same direction. The myth was bigger than the evidence.